Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I've got 3 replays in the German Tier 9 Premium Medium Tank, the KPZ 50T. Now if you do like the video, as always, don't forget to like and subscribe down below, as it really does help out the channel. And yes, the KPZ 50T, a tank that, since it came out back in the Valor days, you know, that pre-6.0 time, it's always been a wonderful Tier 9 medium tank. It's one of those that's kind of slow, steady, wins the race, does everything pretty good. And that's because the DPM was never that good on this vehicle. It's one of the things that was always not great, was the DPM. But in the recent patch, the base DPM did end up getting buffed to better than it's ever been before, which is definitely handy for the KPZ 50T. And like I say, it's one of those vehicles that was always slow and steady but in terms of its consistency, because it, you know, it couldn't really do damage that quickly, but the gun handling was always amazing, so it was always a pure laser, even in the pre-6.0 days, and even now the gun is still pretty damn accurate. The mobility was always solid, so it could get about the battlefield pretty easily and get to positions that you wanted to take. The concealment was always good on this vehicle, meaning that you could take up stealthy positions and fire through bushes without getting spotted too easily, which is always good. You could use the gun depression to go hull down, and your turret armor would bounce a lot of shots. Your hull armor could bounce a surprising amount of shots off the upper plate, but generally you didn't really want to rely on the hull armor. It was all about how good the turret armor is, going to those aggressive ridgeline locations where you can use the 8 degrees gun depression, bounce shots off this turret, and then just consistently pump shells down range, where you're not going to be taking too many hits, but you're not putting yourself at too much risk because your DPM was never good enough to get into those sorts of DPM knife fights. It just wanted to be on those ridge lines, using the gun depression, bouncing shots off the turret, and just consistently pumping rounds into weak spots, because this is what this gun can do, because it is so nice on the KPZ. So what did they buff in the recent patch? Well, the 105mm gun got its alpha buffed from 320 to 360, meaning its damage per minute went up from 2086 to 2348, which is better than it's ever been on the base DPM, because usually what happens when they buff alpha like that from 320 to 360, or from 360 to 390, or 390 to 420, etc., they tend to buff the alpha and then nerf the reload. They just didn't do that with the KPZ, which means the KPZ just got a flat-out DPM buff, as well as having that higher alpha, which is very nice for this vehicle, and it does feel very good. And like I say, it's just the fact that this tank is so consistent in pushing out damage, because this gun is so good. You've got the great mobility, the nice camo, great gun handling, good gun depression, armor that works well enough on a ridge line. You know, it's just a great all-rounder of a vehicle, this KPZ 50T. It really is. So with the KPZ, you've got a 60 km/h top speed, 20 km/h reverse speed, 900 horsepower engine, which is 18 horsepower per ton ratio, which means you get up to top speed really quite easily, and it does zip about the battlefield, this medium tank, really quite nicely. 34 degrees a second on the hull rotation speed means it's not incredibly quick to turn, but it's quick enough, which means you can get around corners quickly, all that good stuff. Your ground resistances are 2.11 on soft, 1.05 on medium, and 0.96 on firm, which aren't amazing ground resistances, but they're also not bad. They don't really hold you back that much, so they're decent enough for the vehicle. 286 meters of steel concealment is good for a medium tank, with 318 meters of on-the-move concealment. Now, you could run the low-noise exhaust, and that would get you closer to that 286 meters of still concealment, but I prefer to run the gun stabilizer just to get the accuracy during movement and rotation down, because that's something you didn't really have to run before the crew and equipment system update, but now you definitely do want to do that so that the aim circle isn't absolutely ginormous. Otherwise it is, and you've got to sit and wait for the aim time. But you could drop the gun stabilizer if you feel like the gun is good enough for you, and run the low noise exhaust, and that will get you closer to the 286 meters of still concealment. By using the low noise exhaust, you'll have that moving concealment down closer to the 286. That is what I'm trying to say. You've got 476 meters of view range, which is good enough for you to spot for yourself in this KPZ 50T. 33.38 degrees a second on the turret rotation speed is slightly slower than the tracks, so do bear that in mind. 0.96 accuracy during rotation, with the 2.19 accuracy during movement. Yeah, it's not the best in the universe, and that means you do have to wait for this gun to get aimed in, and that's why we run the gun stabilizer as well as the 2 gun perks, so that the aim circle isn't absolutely ginormous. As you do have a 2.21 second aim time, which isn't the best aim time in the universe, and you do start to feel it a little bit with how the gun aims out, or the gun blooms out, or the aim circle blooms out, whichever way you want to put it. But still, when you do get this gun aimed in, it's like a laser. It is definitely a beautiful thing like that. You just got to wait for it to be fully aimed, and then you'll hit your shots, unlike that one, which wasn't fully aimed, and so we hit the gun of the Manti. But you get my point. As you've got 0.32 accuracy at 100 meters, which is really accurate, and like I say, fully aimed gun is like a laser. It's lovely. You've got 8 degrees of gun depression, which means you are very, very flexible on a ridgeline, which is really good to have for the Kampfpanzer 50T, especially if you're using that really nice turret armor that this vehicle has. You've got an 8.16 second reload, which is 2.6k DPM, which is pretty decent DPM. It's not incredible DPM, but it's pretty decent DPM for a tier 9 medium tank these days. And like I say, it just helps you to, with the very accurate gun, put out consistent damage with that new 360 alpha that you have on this 105mm gun. You got 268 pen on the standard APDS rounds, which is fantastic. It will go through most vehicles you'll face, and for those that are the super heavy vehicles, you can load the 310 pen heat rounds, which will then start to go through your Type 5s, your Mouses, etc, etc. 1,478 meters a second shell velocity on the standard APDS rounds is fantastic shell velocity, with 1,173 meters a second shell velocity on the premium heat rounds and the HE. I mean, you have to give a bit more lead at distance to be able to hit your targets with the heat rounds and the HE. But it's still above average in terms of that velocity, and that velocity is still very nice for a heat round and for a HE round, just not quite the level of the APDS round, so you just have to adjust when you load each type of round. But yeah, you saw that first game was a fairly average game for the Kampfpanzer 50T there in its buffed state with the 3.2k damage. It wasn't the most perfect game for the tank. Ruinberg, it didn't play out quite nicely for it, but we managed to make the most of it for being able to get shots down the different alleyways and just keeping the damage flowing and trying to get our team to the win. So what do I run in terms of recurring equipment on the Kampfpanzer? Well, on the Kampfpanzer, I do run Born Leader, Situational Awareness, the Camouflage Expertise, the Green Thumb, Snapshot, Run and Gun, Radio Jamming, Comms Expert, and Expert Gunner, with the Advanced Loader, the Improved Concealment, the Optics, and the Gun Stabilizer. So we run the Gun Stabilizer and the Snapshot and Run and Gun just to get the accuracy during rotation and movement down as low as possible so that we don't have to wait for the aim time for too long. We've got the Improved Concealment just to get that camo down to the 286 meters of still concealment, which can be very, very handy for this vehicle, especially in a stealthy bush location. The Advanced Loader, or the gun rammer, to be able to get the best out of the DPM as you want to do that naturally, since you don't have the best DPM in the universe, but you want to be able to get that up as much as possible. The Expert Gunner to just have the improved chance of doing module damage by 6%, as well as the reduction in the penetration over distance, so it's got that closer to the standard 268 pen on the APDS rounds. Radio Jamming to reduce the amount of time spotted by 7 seconds, with the Comms Expert to keep people lit up for 13 seconds, or 10 seconds depending on if they're running Radio Jamming. Just a handy perks to have, because again, we tend to take aggressive spotty locations in this vehicle at times, so it's nice to be able to keep people lit up for longer, and then when I've got myself pulled back behind ridge lines, I can get unspotted quicker. It's always nice to be able to have that in general. With Camouflage Expertise and Green Thumb, generally to make the most of bush locations, keeping me unlit for longer or making it easier to stay unlit in those bush locations, as well as just generally making the camo better on this vehicle with the Camouflage Expertise. So in this second game here on this map, which is Vineyards, we've had a decent enough start, getting us up to 1,080 damage with 368 assistance. We got fairly lucky that we didn't get penned by a 4,005 as we took a shot at him and he went, "I know where you are already." And he was ready to hit us with the Hesh rounds, but like I say, thankfully, he didn't blow us away. We've got a Type 5 Heavy in front of us, which we're not going to pen really that easily with the 268 pen APDS rounds, so we're going to need the heat rounds to be able to go through that Type 5 Heavy. The Leopard's coming in, so we want to try and help our IS-32 out against this Leopard. So if we can get in to get the shots, that's what we need to do. We're hitting for 338, which is a low roll, because, you know, 360 Alpha now. And the 257 also started to poke over to try and get a shot in, so we're just being as careful as humanly possible, because like I say, we can bounce the shots off the turret armor of the Kampfpanzer because it's got very, very nice turret armor, but if they catch out our hull armor, the likelihood is they will go through the hull armor. So we've just got to be patient. We don't want to overextend too far because it's quite easy for them to also then come over and get shots into us, so we're just being as careful as possible. And as we do that, we end up finding the Conqueror, so we get a shot through the side of the Conqueror's turret there with the heat round, damaging him for 391. That's quite the high roll. We'll take that for the low roll we had on the Leopard. But with the Conqueror coming in, I don't really want to fight a Conqueror in a hull down location because, yeah, the Conqueror is just going to be a real pain. And we see the heavy tank is actually pushed quite aggressively, so I can't see the 4005, he can't see me, so we put a shot into the rear of the 257, putting him down to a one-shot for anyone, and the Guerrilla 15 finishes him off. I feel like the medium tank's going to have the Leopard 1 sorted, so instead of going after that Leopard, we're going, not Leopard 1, it's Leopard PTA. We're going to go after the Type 5 and the Conqueror. So we've got the heat loaded again because, again, the APDS rounds are going to struggle with the Type 5 Heavy. The heat rounds won't. So we want to really get rid of this Type 5 if we can. We put a lower plate shot into the Type 5 Heavy. He's taken the very aggressive way over that ridgeline, which meant he went sideways on to all of the TDs and the medium tanks and ended up getting himself shut down. And so now I'm happy to go in on this Conqueror because I know I've got my IS-32 with me. So if the IS-32 comes in, we've got the medium tank as well. We can use our hull down medium tank here to block shots off of our turret, and hopefully, if this Conqueror decides to push me too aggressively, he'll end up getting shut down. But it's not quite happened, so I'm like, well, okay, I'll have to do it. But no, in fact, Batchat15558 said, no, I'll do it, and ended up shutting down the Conqueror. We're up to 3.4k damage with the 503 assistance damage. And there's 7 tanks left on the enemy team, which we know probably where most of them are. They're all going to be up in that corner at J9 or at K5. So we just need to go close in on those vehicles. And if we can use our 486 meters of view range, sorry, 476 meters of view range, sorry, not 486, 476 meters of view range, we can spot them and get some nice assistance damage, which we'll take. So the Jagdpanzer E100 gets spotted. We put a shot through his lower plate there, which was quite the snapshot, but we'll take it. At that kind of angle, we might bounce the APDS rounds, so we might actually need the heat rounds. But in fact, the shot goes straight through that lower plate because it kind of just flattens it out a bit. And we're just waiting on the reload now, and this is where I say, you know, the reload's always been the same for the Panzer. It's always been that slow and steady wins the race kind of reload, where you sit there going, you know that once you pull the trigger, the shot is hitting exactly where you want it to if you're fully aimed. But you do sit there going, come on, come on, come on, and then you shoot them. There's always been the way with Mr. Panzer. So we're up to 4.1k damage with 1,079 assistance. We see the 4,005. Put a shot straight through the side of his turret. We're also going to close into the ridgeline in front of us, so it makes it harder for him to get shots at us. We could actually see the MXM 451 there, but I decided not to go for it. There's actually a Foch 155 as well, and the Batchat artillery. We get the track and pen into the Batchat artillery, which is going to be great for us, because that means we get a load of assistance damage from the tracking. Hopefully pick up the kill on the Piggy, which we do, securing our first kill of the game for 5,096 damage, 2k assistance. And now I want to close in to be able to get shots into the side of this Valor. So I get spotted as I go around the corner, and I don't notice there's a possible TD on my flank. And it's the 4005 who drove around in front of the TD in the medium tank to kill me, and we died, which is always going to happen when you take 183mm of pain to the side. You never want to take 183mm of pain to the side. Trust me, it hurts, okay? So we finished with the victory, 1 kill, 5,096 damage, 2.2k assistance damage, the first class, the Pascucci's medal, the Confederate medal, for 1679 base XP. Pretty nice game there for the Panzer 50T on Vineyards. But now we're on to the third and final replay of this video with Mr. Buffed Panzer, and we're on Death Valley. And on Death Valley, what I want to do in the Panzer is what I want to do in any tank that's got good mobility and good gun depression, and that is go to the position about H7, H8, into that little ridgeline area, because that's a great place to go hull down. You can spot out and get shots all the way along the 7, 8, 9 area, and it's just a very easy place to support your team if they push and all that good stuff. And it's a nice place to, let's say, use the 8 degrees of gun depression this vehicle has, expose it in the turret, make sure you've got the time to get fully aimed in, and then just keep the damage flowing from this gun. And obviously that's the thing with Kampfpanzer having that 60 km/h top speed, is that generally, because you've got that good power to weight ratio as well at 18 horsepower per ton ratio, you will be able to get to the top of this ledge quite quickly. Quicker than some of the enemy vehicles, which is handy for you getting in the perfect ambush location, ready to take the fight to the enemy team, really. So we've seen that there's 2 medium tanks coming this way, which means that I'm going to have 2 medium tanks to face on this ridge. Now, normally I'd go up and left, but I don't want to do that because we saw that there was a Leopard at PTA and another medium tank coming this direction, and if I went up to the left, I would be very alone and very difficult to get out of dodge from there. What I can do is stay kind of hull down in this location, getting myself some easy shots into those two leopards. The Murat as well, we couldn't quite find the shot into him, but we are spotting these guys for my artillery. I do have a medium tank friend, and a heavy tank friend is coming, so if I can find a shot into Mr. Murat or Mr. Leopard PTA, that'd be great. So I'm just going to go up, use the mobility of the vehicle to get up on top of the ridge, put a shot into the Leopard 1, get extremely lucky that we ricocheted the Leopard 1 there, because he actually hit the upper plate at an extreme angle. It bounced. The Leopard PTA looks like he was kind of starting to run away, so you know what, we're going to poke around and make sure that we can get as much damage into this guy before he does. We've got the T95E6 with us, which is one of the really, really ridiculously strong tier 10 medium tanks, so I'm not too fussed about the fight with these two guys. I feel like me and Mr. T95E6 are going to shut these guys down. With the Leopard PTA now being a one-shot, and me Armour-racking for 120. That's a bit overkill. 126 on the Armour-rack. Okay. So we get rid of the Leopard PTA there. The Leopard 1 looked like he was going to try and run, so with the T95E6 putting a shot in, he's now a one-shot. Let's just go in, lock on, finish off the Leopard 1 there for our second kill of this game. We're up to 2,048 damage with 1129 assistance. We've seen the heavy tank is in the corner at J8 in that little area. I decided not to go for him because he's down below and I can't really get shots into him, so instead we're going to make the most of this medium tank that's spotting the Foch 155. We got a shot into the side of the Foch 155, going for that cupola shot, go slightly to the left so we don't hit the cupola of the Foch 155, and that means we don't get any little bit of extra damage. And with that medium tank gone, I was thinking, okay, now maybe I should go and try and get some shots into the heavy tank down at J9. But a shot kind of flew in this way, and with the heavy tank, there we go, we can see the shell tracer. Oh, it dropped low. We saw the shell tracer coming in. The heavy tank was going into a position where he might be able to spot them, but yeah, with the Super Conqueror coming up behind us now, we have to focus on that. But he fired HE at us, and fires HE again, and I sit there going, is this Super Conqueror just firing pure HE? Huh. Now, he could pen me in the lower plate with Hesh, so I've got to be careful of that. But I think, okay, if this guy's firing HE, I'm not as worried. I just need to keep myself in a position where he can only shoot my turret, and that means that he won't do quite as much damage while firing at my turret with the HE rounds, because he'll do as little as he was. So again, we've gone quite aggressive here to get shots into the Conqueror's lower plate, and then he pens us with AP. And I sit there going, oh, he fired AP, but he was firing HE. Why was he firing HE and now he's firing AP? Oh, he's absolutely trolled us to a point where he's managed to do a load of damage to us, which is really unfortunate. It's one of the moments where you sit there going, this Conqueror's firing pure HE. We'll be fine. We took massive hits from the artilleries as well. We're now down to a one-shot, which is pretty awkward. But with my team coming around the side of the Super Conqueror, they've managed to finish that guy off. But yeah, that was one of the moments where I got overconfident with the Super Conqueror, because I thought, well, he's only firing HE, so that means if he's splashing me, he's only going to do 100 damage a shot. And then all of a sudden, he switched to AP, which was, oh, he's just absolutely bamboozled us. And that meant we lost a load of hit points because we took that shot to the turret, which penned us, took us down to 600 HP. We got hit by both RT, which meant that we're down to 156 HP. And yeah, we're now in that position where we've got to be very, very careful. We did get a nice shot through the lower plate of the Valor there, putting us up to 3.8k damage nearly with 1129 assistance. And we're going to use the mobility of the vehicle to try and get under the gun line of that Valor and use the ridge line to be able to just get some shots into him while bouncing shots off our turret. But the Foch 155 gets himself lit up. Unfortunately, the shot goes a little low and hits the superstructure of the Foch 155, meaning we didn't quite get the shot into his cupola. We would have probably finished that guy off there, but the Chieftain Mark 6 ends up finishing off the Foch 155. So yeah, we know where the Valor is. If we can get to the ridge lines at C9, I should be able to go hull down there, use the 8 degrees of gun depression, and try and get some shots into the side of this Valor, while also then going and killing the artillery, and we can get our revenge, our sweet, sweet revenge. So I load HE, because, you know what, I've seen the shell tracers. From this ridge line, I should hopefully spot the artillery up, and then we can get some juicy 53mm of pen HE straight into the artillery for 460 alpha, which can be nice. So we see the GUI, oh no, it's not a GUI, it's a GW Tiger. Hello, Mr. GW Tiger. I'm here for revenge. Do you remember me? So we fire the shot in for 502. He gets finished off. The Valor's looking for shots into us, so we're going to dip a bit lower on this ridge line to make it difficult for him, because I don't want to get shut down at this moment in time. We're in our prime. The Valor's worried about the heavy tanks coming right on on his right. So we put a shot straight through the side of his turret, get ourselves into the next little dip where, again, we're only going to expose our turret while trying to get shots into him. Put a shot through the side of Mr. Valor. I really should be aiming for the track there, because if I could track and pen him, I could get some little bits of more assistance damage, which would be pretty handy. But again, this gun is very, very consistent. Once you get into this sort of position where you can just keep farming like this, it's what the Kampfpanzer does. So they've got 2 tanks left on the enemy team. There's the heavy tank and the medium tank, who are both back towards our base area. So we just need to use the mobility of Mr. Kampfpanzer to be able to get back there, as the Leopard PTA gets shut down by the AMX 50-120, and the last tank alive is the heavy tank, which I'm not quite sure what it is. We've not really looked. But there is still the artillery and another vehicle with that RE back there, where they could probably get him if he does attack towards them. But it's something that we might not have to worry about, because currently we've got 4 people in the cap, and there's only 10 seconds left on that cap timer. So unless he comes out very aggressively after the artillery, medium tanks, etc., yeah, we're not going to get any extra damage in this game, sadly. But we still finished the game with a fantastic total there for the German Tier 9 Premium Medium Tank, the Kampfpanzer 50T. Finished with 5.8k damage, the 1506 assistance damage, the victory, 2 kills, 1887 base XP, with the ace tank of the high caliber, the sniper medal, and yeah, that, like I said, the 1887 base XP. A really nice game there for the Kampfpanzer 50T, which is, yeah, a fantastic all-round medium tank. It really is. Always has been, always will be. It's just a fantastic vehicle to be able to play, and it has been buffed, as it's got that pretty big DPM buff that it's received, as well as having the higher alpha at 360. So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.
A great success!